All right, so ready to really get into barbershop. Like not just enjoy it, but understand what makes it tick, you know?
Yeah.
We're going deep into the Barbershop Harmony Society's contest and judging handbook,
Okay.
specifically the musicality category. And trust me, there's way more to it than just hitting the right notes.
Oh, yeah. It can be pretty surprising the depth they go into.
So first things first. I keep hearing barbershop style, not barbershop genre. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's something the handbook makes really clear. It's a style, not a genre. Like, you could theoretically barbershopify almost anything.
Uh,
Beethoven, Taylor Swift, you name it.
Wait, so I could hear barbershop shake it off? That's kind of wild.
Uh-huh, yeah.
But what makes it barbershop then? Like, what are those core elements no matter what the song is?
Okay, so you got to have your four-part harmony, a cappella, of course. The melody is usually carried by the lead, and then the tenor, baritone, and bass create this, like, tapestry underneath, and then there's that lock and ring everyone talks about.
Yes. The lock and ring. That's when the harmony's just like, C-L-A-C-K, and you get chills, right?
It's more than just a feeling, though. There's actual physics at play. When the overtones from the four voices line up perfectly, you get these amplified frequencies that create an almost, uh, well, a really strong sense of consonance, even with chords that would normally sound dissonant.
Okay, my mind is blown a little bit. So, to win over those judges, how's musicality actually scored? Like, what are they looking for?
So the handbook breaks it down into 5 key elements: harmonic integrity, execution, delivery, thematic development, and embellishment.
5 elements. Wow, so there's more to it than just being like pitch perfect then.
Oh, definitely. In fact, a
Okay.
simple song performed amazingly, like with real nuance and understanding, could actually score higher than something super complex that's, kind of messy.
So it's about quality over difficulty. Like a perfect backflip is more impressive than a sloppy triple somersault.
Exactly. It's that combo of technique and the artistry. That's what the judges want to see. And to give you a peek at their scorecard, they use an A, B, C, D scale. A is obviously fantastic. B is very good. C is average. And then D is, well, let's just say you don't want to see a D.
Got it. D is bad news. All right, so let's break down these 5 elements, starting with harmonic integrity. What does that even mean in the barbershop world?
Basically, it's all about getting that pleasing sound, that consonance we talked about, that lock and ring feeling. But it's also about using chord voicings that are typical of the barbershop style.
Hold on, voicings. Is that like where the notes are within a chord? I'm getting a bit lost in the music theory lingo here.
Good question. Think of it like this. You can play a C major chord on the piano in a bunch of different ways, right? You can have C, E, and G all bunched up or spread out, maybe with G at the bottom or E. Each of those is a different voicing.
Okay, I'm kind of seeing the picture now. So certain voicings work better for barbershop than others.
Exactly. Root position and second inversion chords are like the staples of barbershop harmony. They just create that full, resonant sound the style's known for.
Okay, quick reminder. What are those again? Root position, second inversion.
No problem. Imagine you're building a chord out of blocks. Each block is a note. Root position is where the root note, the one the chord's named after, is on the bottom. So C major, C would be your bottom block. Second inversion is like flipping the stack. So the fifth of the chord, the G in this case, is on the bottom.
Oh, the visual helps. Okay, so any other fancy harmonic stuff barbershop arrangers use to create that magic?
All the time. One thing they use is called the secondary dominant. It's kind of like a detour on the harmonic highway. Instead of going straight to the chord you expect, you take this little side trip, creating a feeling of tension, then bam, resolve back to the main route.
Hmm. I think I need an example. Visual learner, remember.
Okay, so let's say we're in C major and we're going to a G major chord. Instead of going directly there, the arranger might throw in a D7 chord, the dominant 7th chord of G, so that D7 kind of pulls you towards G, then resolves beautifully.
Oh, I think I'm hearing it in my head, like building up the anticipation.
Exactly. And then there are tritone substitutions. Those get a bit trickier, but create this really cool, almost jazzy effect. That's when you replace a dominant 7th with another one that's a tritone away, like musical lead frog, haha.
Tritone substitutions. Do we need blocks for that one too?
Maybe, But the main thing is, these techniques add so much depth and color to barbershop arrangements, creating these satisfying progressions that just keep you hooked.
All right, so we've got strong voicings, secondary dominance, tritone substitutions, all working together to create that harmonic integrity the judges are after. What's next on our barbershop scorecard?
Well, hitting the perfect chords is just the start. Now we've got to consider execution and delivery.
Okay, break those down for me. What do those really mean in the barbershop world?
Execution is pure precision. It's hitting the right notes at the right time, perfect rhythm, synchronization, the whole deal, like the technical foundation.
So if harmonic integrity is the blueprint, execution is making sure the building is built perfectly, brick by brick?
Perfect analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And then delivery, that's where the artistry kicks in. It's the phrasing, the dynamics, how you convey the emotion of the song. It's the difference between just singing the notes and making them tell a story.
So it's the heart and soul of the performance.
Exactly. It's what makes a technically perfect performance truly moving. And here's something interesting from the handbook. It's actually harder for choruses to nail these elements than quartets.
Wait, really? I'd have thought more singers would mean more support, making things easier.
You'd think so. But more singers also means more room for tiny mistakes. One person, a little off on timing or pitch, can throw the whole thing off.
Ah, like synchronizing a dance routine with 20 people versus 4, the margin for error is way smaller.
Exactly. It's a testament to those big choruses who can pull it off that they achieve that level of precision.
All right, so we've got harmonic integrity, execution, delivery. Now what about thematic development? This is where things get really interesting, right?
Well, for sure. This is where the performers take those raw materials, the melody, lyrics, the harmony, and shape them into something truly unique. It's about understanding what the composer intended, and adding your own musicality to it.
So more than just hitting the notes, it's about interpreting them, the emotional stuff, adding layers of meaning.
You got it. Think about your favorite song and how the dynamics change throughout, how the intensity builds, maybe even slight alterations to the melody in places. That's thematic development at work.
Oh, like how the chorus in Bohemian Rhapsody changes each time. Different energy each time, different emotion.
Perfect example. That sense of journey, the evolution of the musical idea, that's what the judges love to see.
4 elements down, 1 to go. Embellishments, so what are those? The sprinkles on the barbershop Sunday.
Kinda. Those flourishes that go beyond the basic harmony. Swipes, echoes, key changes, and even sometimes, get this, alterations to the melody or lyrics.
Wait, hold up. Changing the song, isn't that like musical sacrilege?
It can be. But in barbershop, embellishments got to support the song's overall development, not just be flashy. And sometimes a tiny change to the melody or lyric actually enhances the emotion or makes it more relevant today.
So it's like updating a classic movie, modernizing the dialogue a bit, but keeping the heart of the story intact.
Exactly. It's finding that balance between honoring the original and making it resonate in a fresh way.
Wow, this is way more intricate than I realized. The judges must have superhuman ears to catch all this.
Well, they definitely have a deep understanding of the style and what makes a performance stand out. But honestly, we've only just scratched the surface. There's a whole other layer when we get to the penalties.
Oh boy, penalties. That's where things get serious.
You bet. And some of them are strict, like no instruments allowed except for maybe sound effects.
So no sneaking in a little guitar solo to spice things up.
Nope. A cappella all the way. And if a chorus tries to get fancy with a fifth part to the harmony, penalty, gotta say within that 4-part texture, like a really good quartet could handle it.
Makes sense. So what LSE would make a barbershop singer sweat?
Here's a biggie. You can't repeat a song, or even a big chunk of one, in competition. Instant forfeiture. High stakes, for sure.
Whoa, okay, they mean business. So we've covered a lot, but feels like we're just getting started. Where do we go from here?
Well, now you've got a taste of those 5 elements, we can really dive into how each one's judged, what those judges are really listening for.
All right, listeners, buckle up. This barbershop deep dive is about to get even more fascinating.
Okay, so ready to really put on your judge's hat, like dissect these musical elements.
I'm kind of nervous, like I'm about to audition myself, but also super curious. Let's do it.
Awesome. Now, remember we talked about those embellishments and how they can even involve, like, changing the melody or lyrics a bit.
Yeah, that part still kind of blows my mind. Like, how much freedom do performers actually have VE?
Right. Well, the handbook really stresses that any changes, you have got to have a musical purpose, be done tastefully. Like, imagine a song with lyrics that maybe haven't aged so well.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely cringed at some old-timey lyrics.
Exactly. So a slight lyric change could make the song more relatable to a modern audience, right?
Yeah.
Make it more inclusive. The goal is to enhance the message, not, like, ruin it.
So it's like updating a classic movie, maybe modernizing some dialogue, but keeping the heart of the story.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And same goes for the melody. Sometimes a subtle tweak can really emphasize an emotion or create a fresh dynamic in the song.
So it's all about strategy, basically, using embellishments to really deepen the song's impact and meaning. But man, all these tiny details. It makes me wonder how choruses ever pull off a flawless performance, so many singers to coordinate.
That's a great point, and the handbook actually addresses that directly. It says judges take the ensemble size into account when they're evaluating, especially with execution and delivery.
So they're not holding choruses to a lower standard, they just get that it's harder to keep everyone in sync.
Precisely. They're judging the overall effect, but in context.
Yeah.
You know? It's like judging a synchronized swimming routine.
Mhm.
A solo performance is going to have a different level of precision than a team of 8.
Right, different challenges, different strengths. But speaking of challenges, let's talk about that magical lock and ring sound again. Such a crucial part of barbershop. What are the, secrets to achieving it?
One big thing the handbook emphasizes is the importance of specific chords and voicings. Besides the major triad, the most common chord you hear in barbershop is the dominant 7th.
The dominant 7th. That's the one with that kind of unresolved jazzy feel.
Yep.
Yep.
It's so central to barbershop. They actually call it the barbershop 7th in the handbook.
So it's like their secret ingredient. And we talked about those strong voicings.
Mhm.
How do those play into the lock and ring?
Remember our block analogy. Well, strong voicings are those arrangements of notes within a chord that just create the clearest, most resonant sound. Root position and second inversion chords are usually the strongest.
So it's not just hitting the right notes, it's arranging them in a way that really maximizes that lock and ring effect.
Exactly. You want that sound to be solid, well-supported, like a beautifully built archway or something.
This makes me realize there's so much thought, so much strategy that goes into creating that barbershop sound. Like, it's science and art all at once.
It really is. And the handbook actually lays out like a whole hierarchy of chords based on their consonance potential. Major triads and barbershop 7ths are at the top, then minor triads, then a bunch of more complex chords that are used more sparingly.
So it's like a toolbox with different chords for different purposes, and a good arranger knows which ones to use to get the effect they want.
Perfect analogy. But what about those like rogue chords, the ones that fall outside the typical barbershop vocabulary? Are those totally off limits?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. The rule breakers, so to speak.
Well, the handbook does allow for a brief and musically appropriate use of out-of-vocabulary chords.
So it's like adding a dash of exotic spice as long as it doesn't overpower the whole dish.
Precisely. Key is use them sparingly with purpose so they don't clash with the overall barbershop vibe. But speaking of clashing, let's get back to those penalties. We talked about some big ones, but are there other pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah, what kind of stuff would make a judge grab their red pen, metaphorically speaking?
One thing is exceeding that 4-part texture. Remember, barbershop's all about that tight, harmonically rich sound a quartet can create.
So if a chorus gets too ambitious and adds a 5th part, penalty time.
Yep. It's like trying to cram too many people into a phone booth. The sound just loses its clarity.
And it's not something a quartet could pull off.
Exactly. The judges want that classic barbershop sound. Anything too far from that, points off.
Okay, so those are the major no-nos. But what about the subtle stuff? The things that maybe the average listener wouldn't even notice?
Well, the handbook actually describes this fascinating judging process where they start with an initial impression, then adjust the score as they listen based on how the group handles all those musical elements.
So it's not just checking boxes, they're actively listening, analyzing, responding to the performance in real time.
That's right. They're looking for both the technical skills and the artistic expression. They want to see that the singers get the music, feel it, and can communicate that to the audience.
That's a pretty demanding job. These judges must have some seriously well-trained ears.
They do.
Yeah.
And a love for barbershop, of course. They're not just judging, they're like guardians of the style, making sure the traditions are upheld, the standards are met.
The keepers of the flame, passing it down to the next generation of singers?
That's a great way to put it. And it's a responsibility they take seriously. They want the style to thrive, for new singers to discover the joy of it all. But let's be real, sometimes a performance just doesn't work. And that's where those penalties come in.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. How do those penalties work? What separates a minor deduction from a major one?
The handbook lays out this sliding scale based on how severe the infraction is. Imagine a performance that's, technically okay, but a bit bland. Maybe the chords are predictable, embellishment's kind of safe.
So like a perfectly baked cake that just doesn't have much flavor. Edible, but not exciting.
Perfect analogy. Those minor things might get a point or two off, just a little nudge from the judges to be more creative.
Okay, what about something a bit worse, like a style choice that makes them cringe?
Hmm. Imagine the melody gets buried in the arrangement for too long. Or the singers overdo it with the non-lyrical stuff, obscuring the words.
So it's not just technical errors, it's stylistic choices that go too far.
Exactly. Those could be penalties in the 5 to 9 point range. Ouch, but not a total disaster.
All right, now for the really big deductions, the score killers.
Those are for when an arrangement just has major barbershop deficiencies. Maybe the song choice was totally wrong, or the arrangement uses so many non-barbershop chords, it sounds like a different genre entirely.
Like showing up to a black tie gala in jeans and a t-shirt, technically clothed, but way out of place.
Exactly. Those could be 10 points off or more. A major blow.
This judging process is intense, not just right and wrong, but this whole spectrum of musicality and style.
It is. And remember, the penalties aren't about being mean. It's feedback. Guiding singers towards a deeper understanding of barbershop, what makes it great.
It's about elevating the art form itself, not punishing mistakes. But before we get too deep into penalties, let's break down those scoring levels. What does it take to get that amazing A score?
So the handbook describes an A performance as one with the most consistent musicality, with very few distractions. It's about nailing all 5 elements: harmonic integrity, execution, delivery, thematic development, and embellishment.
So like hitting a home run every time you're at bat. Consistent excellence.
Exactly. And even within the A level, there are subcategories: A plus A and A. A plus is reserved for those truly mind-blowing performances, the ones that leave everyone speechless.
The Olympic gold medal of barbershop, basically.
Yeah. So that a B performance is still really good, just maybe a couple tiny inconsistencies or moments where the technique shows a little, like hitting a double or triple instead of a home run.
Okay, so still impressive, just not quite as effortless. What about C level?
That's your average performance. Decent, but nothing too remarkable.
Making contact with the ball, but maybe just a grounder.
Yep. And then, well, you've got the dreaded D.
Mm-hmm.
Not a place you want to be.
Like striking out, basically.
Exactly. A D performance is where it all falls apart. Lots of distractions, bad intonation, maybe even a total lack of understanding of the music.
All right, so we got our scoring levels, but the handbook also mentions something interesting about how judges tell the difference between them. It says the difference between an A and a B often comes down to consistency and desensitivity of performance.
Right. So it's not just about hitting the notes. It's about hitting them with feeling, with nuance, showing you really understand the music.
And what about between a B and a C?
The handbook says that often comes down to consistency, too. A B performance, the singers are in control. C level, it can feel like the music is controlling them.
Oh, I've seen those performances, where it looks like they're just trying to keep up.
Exactly. And there's even a distinction between C and D. AC, there's still some awareness of the musical elements. D can be a total lack of understanding.
So it's not just how well you sing, it's how well you understand what you're singing. That deeper connection.
Exactly. Which brings us to the last part of the handbook, where they talk about those penalties up to and including forfeiture.
Oh man, the heavy stuff. What kind of musical crimes lead to that?
Well, we've hit the big ones. Instruments, repeating songs, exceeding 4-part texture. Those are like instant disqualification territory.
The ultimate barbershop sins, haha. But there's more to it than that, right? Like, what about the melody and lyrics? Are there rules around those too?
Absolutely. The handbook says the melody should be distinguishable for most of the song and most consistently sung by the lead. So no hiding it or passing it around willy-nilly.
It's all about clarity, letting that melody shine through.
Right. And for lyrics, it stresses that they should be sung by all 4 parts through most of the song's duration. So no excessive humming, vocalizing, or using neutral syllables for too long.
Gotta let those words shine too, blended with the harmonies. But hold on, the handbook says judges can penalize a group for choosing a song that's not right for barbershop. Wait, you can get penalized for picking the wrong song.
It does sound weird, but yeah. The handbook says the music should be appropriate to the barbershop style, should feature the hallmarks of the barbershop style. So if a group tries to shoehorn a song that's not really meant for it, yeah, it can backfire.
Like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole again?
Exactly. Judges are also looking for harmonic richness and variety and a degree of homorhythmic texture. If a song is too simplistic or too dissonant or missing those classic barbershop progressions, it might not do well.
So it's not just about singing in four-part harmony, it's about picking songs that really highlight what makes barbershop special.
Exactly. And get this, they can even penalize a group for not following the basic structure.
Mhm.
Verse, chorus, tag. So no getting too experimental with the song form.
Man, there are a lot of rules, but it seems like it's all about making sure the performances are top-notch and true to the barbershop spirit.
Absolutely. The handbook makes it clear. These rules aren't meant to stifle creativity, they're meant to guide it, to help singers really reach their full potential within the style.
I'm genuinely impressed by this handbook. It's so thoughtful, clearly written by people who love barbershop music.
Oh yeah, that passion is obvious. It's inspiring to see how much care goes into preserving and promoting this unique musical tradition.
Well, our listeners are now armed with a ton of knowledge about barbershop and how it's judged. But before we wrap up, one more question for you.
Hit me with it.
With all these rules, all this talk about technical stuff, style, penalties, does it ever feel like it says the fun out of singing?
That's a great question. And honestly, I think it's both. Like, yeah, having all these rules can feel restrictive, make you second guess yourself, worry about messing up.
Right, like someone's always watching, judging every note you
Yeah.
sing, kills the creativity.
Exactly. But Buoy, those rules also create a framework, a structure, and sometimes that can spark creativity. When you know the boundaries, you can push against them in cool ways, finding new ways to express yourself within the style.
So like those optical illusions where you got to look at the negative space to see the image, the limitations actually help define the art.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's what makes barbershop so special. It's a style that needs both precision and passion, technical skill and the emotional depth.
Yeah.
And when those come together, magic happens.
Well said. So we've reached the end of our deep dive into barbershop judging. Listeners, hope you've got a new appreciation for how intricate this art form is.
And next time you hear a barbershop group perform, listen closely. You might be surprised at just how much skill and artistry goes into creating that sound.
Yeah. It's a world of harmonies, precision, and expression all blended together into something that's both impressive and moving. So keep an ear out for those barbershop chords and let the magic wash over you.
Okay, so we've spent like 2 whole deep dives now exploring this world of barbershop judging.
Yeah.
We've broken down those 5 core elements of musicality, all the secrets of strong voicings and barbershop sevenths,
Right.
even got into those controversial embellishments. But now it's time to face the music,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Penalty time. All right, let's talk about those score deductions. Those moments that can make or break a performance. Those up to and including forfeiture situations.
I'm already getting nervous. But I guess that's competition, right? Rules and then consequences if you break them.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about punishing the singers. It's about keeping those barbershop standards high, making sure the performances are top-notch. It's like any sport. You got to have boundaries, you know? Makes it fair. Makes it a challenge.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So let's pretend we're the judges, right? Watching a quartet perform and they hit a snag, what kind of things would be like minor deductions, a slap on the wrist?
Okay, so maybe their harmonic integrity is a little off. Chord voicing's not quite as strong as they could be. Or a few moments where the harmonies don't quite lock. The audience might not even notice, but a judge's ear will pick it up.
So like a picture that's slightly blurry, you can still see it, but it's not as crisp.
Exactly. Or maybe their thematic development is kind of weak. The song doesn't really go anywhere, it just stays flat.
Like a story with no climax. Beginning, middle, but never reaches its full potential.
Yep, those kind of things, maybe a point or two off, just a signal from the judges like, hey, you can do better.
All right, so those are the small deductions. What about something a bit more serious? Something that makes the judges cringe a little?
Okay, imagine the lead singer's voice is always getting buried, or the balance between the voices is off and it sounds muddy.
Like a recipe where one ingredient overpowers everything else, ruins the flavor.
Exactly. Or maybe they pick a song that's just not right for barbershop. A great song on its own, but it just doesn't work in this style.
Square peg, round hole, right?
Yep. Those kind of stylistic missteps, you're looking at deductions of 5 to 9 points. Pretty big hit.
Okay, now I'm getting stressed. Let's go for it. The big one. What would get a group a 10-point deduction or even a forfeiture? The barbershop cardinal sins.
We already talked about a few. Instruments, repeating songs, going beyond 4-part harmony, instant disqualifiers, no debate.
The ultimate barbershop fouls. But anything else that would get them in that penalty box?
Imagine a performance where they completely ignore the barbershop style. Try to throw in pop or rock elements, or use super dissonant harmonies.
Like showing up to a costume party in, like, a business suit.
Mm.
Totally not playing the game.
Nah, exactly. Or a performance where they're just unprepared, intonations a mess, rhythms sloppy, no stage
Like
presence.
they didn't even practice.
Right. Those things show a lack of respect for the art form, for the competition, major penalties, maybe even a forfeiture.
Yikes, that's scary. Makes sense, though. Competition's serious, you gotta be committed, you gotta bring the artistry.
Definitely. But most barbershop singers, they're passionate, they want to do it right. The judging's there to guide them, help them improve.
That makes me feel better. So after all this talk about judging, do you think the rules, the penalties, do they make singing more fun or less fun?
Hmm, that's a good question. And honestly, I think it's both. Like, on one hand, yeah, all these rules can feel kind of stifling, right? Makes you second guess yourself, worry about making mistakes.
Like trying to be creative, but someone's constantly looking over your shoulder, judging everything you do.
Exactly. But then, those rules also create a framework, a structure. And sometimes that's what sparks creativity. When you know the boundaries, you can push against them in cool ways. Find new ways to express yourself within the style.
Like those optical illusions where you got to look at the negative space to see the image. The limitations actually define the art form.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's what makes barbershop so cool, so captivating. It needs both precision and deep passion, technical skill and the emotional depth. When those come together, magic.
Love that. Well, I think we've officially reached the end of our barbershop judging deep dive. Listeners, I hope you've learned a ton, gained a new appreciation for this art form.
And next time you hear a barbershop group, really listen. You might be amazed at the skill and artistry that goes into it.
Yeah, it's harmonies, it's precision, it's
Sure.
expression, all blended together into something that's just really special. So keep an ear out for those barbershop chords and let the magic wash over you.